Hello everybody and welcome back to the workshop. Today I'm going to build a dog bowl stand. I'm going to make it to hold two bowls, and I'm going to make it out of some iroko, which is a hardwood that I had lying around in the workshop. So I have two pieces 45 by 28 that I'm going to use to incorporate in the legs, and I have one piece which is for the top, which is this piece, which is 630 millimeters long and 255 millimeters wide, so in or around 25 inches by 10 inches. So I'll bring you in closer, we'll mark this out and we'll take it from there. Okay, to mark this out, the first thing I need to do is get the size of the bowl, and the bowl is 210 millimeters to the outside of the lip, but we also need the measurement for the hole. Now the quick way of doing that, instead of trying to guesstimate what it might be, is just put a straight edge on both sides like that and just measure both ends to get them equal, and that measures 191 millimeters. So I know that the hole I need needs to be 191 millimeters for the body of the bowl. So that's the quick way of doing it. Okay, to mark this out, first thing I need to do is get a center line, like so. I know that this piece is 630, the bowl is 210. I want to have an equal amount of timber shown at both ends and in the middle. So 410 from 630 is 210, so that's 70 millimeters. So I need to come in 70 and then the 210, which makes it 280. I'll do that from both ends, and that will give an equal amount of wood shown at either end. Now, I want to get the centre of the hole, it'd be 105 and 105. So I just want to draw 45-degree diagonals from that centre point, and I'm going to be using this to line up my hole cutting template for the router. It's as simple as that. That's your two centre points and that's the diagonals to mark the hole. There's one more thing I need to do, and that is I need to mark two parallel lines at 5 inches, which is 2.5 inches from the centre, to give me a 5 inch on a 5 inch disc. And I'm going to square those in as well. Okay, now the reason for those will become apparent in a little bit. Before I router these out, I need to add a bit of double-sided tape to the back where the disc is going to be. So because I don't want the disc to be loose once I router the whole way through. So the simplest way is just a couple of bits of double-sided tape. This should hold everything in place, stick on. So it even holds it in place nearly as it is. Okay, the template, which I made in my previous video, and if you haven't checked that out, I'll stick a link to it below, and you can check out how to make these. And you just line this up with the diagonals that I've drawn here. You draw them up, line them up with the diagonals that are on the template, with making the template. That guarantees, and the centre lines as well, that guarantees that that's in the centre. So, and the multi-purpose lamps are back in use again, just like that. So I'm going to router out both of these, and then we'll move on to the next stage. Okay, there you go. 2 nice holes cut. That's the perfect size for the bowl. I'm going to leave the top for just a moment, and I'm going to concentrate on these pieces. Now these are the waste that was out of the top, but I'm going to incorporate these into the legs of the stand. Hence that's why I put the 2 marks on it when I was laying it out. I'm going to cut both of these on those lines, keeping it square, and I'm going to incorporate that into the leg. I'm also going to cut the 4 top and bottom rails for the legs when we're at the saw. So I'll move over to the saw now, and I'll just show you how I cut these. Okay, now we have those cut. So the idea is to have a bottom, middle and a top, and that forms the leg of the stand. There are several different ways you could hold this together. You could put biscuit joint in it, you could put dowels in it, what I'm just going to use is glue and screws. So I'm going to put 2 screws in the top, 2 in the bottom, and I'm going to bore pilot holes for them, but I won't bore you with me boring holes. But one of the other things I want to do is on the legs and on the top, I want to put a radius. So I'm just using a 2-inch, it's actually a 2-inch spacer off the spindle moulder, and I'm going to round both ends of the legs as so, and I'm going to do the same on the top. So what I'll do is, when I've all these marked and if the pilot hole's bored, I'll bring us over to the sander, we'll sand all this up. I'll be routering a little pencil round onto the edges. So I'll carry on with this and I'll bring us over to the sander when I get to the sander. Okay, now we have those sanded up and a nice little pencil round put on. So we're just about ready to put the legs together. But there's one thing I want to do before I do that, and that's because I'm screwing the leg to the underside of the top, I want to bore the pilot holes for those now. Because once I put the leg together and have them pieces there, it's going to be very difficult to bore the pilot hole. So I'm going to do that when it's apart, so it'll just make life an awful lot easier later on. So it's very simple. I'm keeping it in 25mm from the end and 13mm from either side, and just like that. Simple. It's just an awful lot easier to do it now than do it after. So we'll move on now to put the leg together. For this, I find it easier to have a square clamped to the bench. This is an old roofing square. So you can slide your pieces in and it'll keep them square for you. And because this is 45mm and the centre part is 28, to centre that in it, I need to space it off either side 8.5mm. So to do that, I just had a scrap bit of MDF that I run through the planer and made it 8.5mm. And I also just put a mark, an overall length mark on it, and I put 2 marks then so that this is centred. So that when you go to put it together, you just line that up, keep it to the square, and that's perfect. So I just want to put a bit of glue on it now. We'll bore pilot holes and we'll drive 4 screws. And there you go. One leg together. Now there's one more thing I want to do with this. I machined these off camera. It's just to add 2 little feet. I think it just puts more of a finish to the bottom of it. Plus, if the ground is a little bit unlevel, it won't be as inclined to rock. So to put these in place, I'm just going to use a small bit of glue and a few brads. Need to get more glue, Tommy. Now, as you know by now, I always like to do the thing the easy way. So, to centre these, I just have a few little slips, 10mm slips. I just cut them and just put a bit of masking tape on them to hold them together. But that allows me to position these and line them up to keep them right in all directions. So once that's done, just 2 pins, and we'll do the same on this end. And that's it. One leg done. So I'll move on now. I'll bore the other pilot holes in the other end of the top, and I'll put the other leg together, and I'll come back to you then. Okay, with the legs screwed together, I went ahead and I just added a couple of coats of finish to these just to bring up the colour. I think the iroko looks well with a bit of finish on it. So there's one more thing to do, and that's to screw the legs in place. So that's very simple. Just Put a few screws in, line them up with the pilot holes that we bored, and if you have one of these little angle screwdrivers, they're very handy when you're trying to get into an awkward place like this. Now, there it is, just like that. And the bowls even fit. So, a zero waste dog ball stand made out of iroko with a little bit of detail on the end using up the waste material from the top. So, if you enjoyed this video, give it a now thumbs up, and if you haven't already done so, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. So, until next time, thanks very much for watching.